In the Sioux Falls School District, we have said that educators have infinite influence on the lives they touch, and on the lives those lives touch, and so on. So that the lessons, relationships, and interactions our educators are a part of live on in future interactions for years, decades, perhaps centuries to come. And here's just one example. Barb Boone-Graves is a 7th grade science teacher at Patrick Henry Middle School. It's her final year here.
Well, I'm going to retire in May. After 35 years of teaching, I taught 5 years in Coleman, and I've been at Patrick Henry for 30 years.
She obviously liked Patrick Henry and science and teaching to keep doing it for 3 decades.
It's kind of like my home after 30 years. It was always a very good school to be here. It had a good reputation. It has high quality staff. It's the connections I made with the students, the teachers, the administration. Everybody who works here was driven to excel at their highest level. So it's the connections to the kids actually that's kept me in teaching. And I love science because it's out there. It is out there, it's in here, it's everywhere. And so I want to instill in them the value of learning and science, that it's out there. And I feel like what else kept me in here was the connections, whether it was the kids, the families, the teachers, the mentors, the other teachers, like Mr. Ramus and I have been teaching together for 26 years. And his father, yes, I was interviewed by his father, Vic Ramus. At the time, Dan Griffith was our principal, and Vic interviewed me, and he was kind of my mentor. And this is his room that I teach in. And then shortly after that, I was pregnant with my 2nd child, and Dave was kind of in between jobs, so he became my sub. And when my daughter was born, so that was 26 years ago, and the very next year we got him a job at Patrick Henry as an English language arts teacher.
You would expect a variety of connections over 30 years, and with as many students as Barb has served.
I estimate I'm close to 4,000 students.
Some of those students have actually become her co-workers, like Kevin Allender, an education assistant at Patrick Henry, Mary Brunick, the art teacher, Lindsay Carmen, a 7th grade counselor, and Allie Hoffman Dunbar, the band director. That may seem unusual, but Patrick Henry assistant principal Jeff Knoll knows why it happens.
It's that family atmosphere that we have here. And a lot of that I attribute to Barb. Is she definitely takes a genuine interest in her students. Whenever she sees a family that she knows, and usually it's because she maybe had their parents, or maybe even like knows grandparents, she really advocates that she wants to have them in her class. For sure she wants to have them on her team. And I think that a lot of that is Barb, and how much she really emphasizes building those relationships and getting to know students and families. I mean, the Sioux Falls School District is a pretty large community, especially in South Dakota, and for us to experience that a lot at Patrick Henry, I think is kind of goes back to that family atmosphere. Allie Hoffman, who teaches here, she was how this keeps going. She was not only a student of Barb's, she was a student of mine at Lincoln High School. There's just that legacy that you see in education that's pretty unique.
And Jeff knows because, well,
when I was a 7th grader at Patrick Henry, at that time it was junior high, because we were kind of in the middle of that transition between middle school and junior high school. And she was my 7th grade science teacher. The main thing I remember initially is, as a junior high, middle school kid, she was extremely tall. So that's the first thing that you remember. But we had a lot of fun in her class, and she always kind of was one of my favorite teachers at Patrick Henry. And so then you kind of, a super long story, I get into education kind of the long way around and find myself at the middle school level, and eventually find my way to Patrick Henry. Now in the meantime, my kids, we live in the Patrick Henry Attendance Center, and so my kids, my oldest son gets to 7th grade the same year that I start here too, and he has Barb in class, and she remembered me. I'm kind of surprised. I was a little more quiet, a little more shy. I like to tell people I was kind of maybe forgettable in middle school. But, you know, she clearly remembered me, and, you know, I clearly remembered her. And it was just kind of fun that she had my oldest son in class. And I knew that Barb she'd kind of been talking about when she was going to retire. And so I was talking to her, asking her when she started, because I was pretty sure her first year at Patrick Henry was the year that she had me in class. And so we kind of like checked some dates and talked about it, and discovered that that was indeed the case, that her first year here was when she had me, and actually my wife in her class too. So when I found out that this was going to be her last year, and she has my youngest son in her class too, I just thought that was kind of neat, that her first year at Patrick Henry and in the Sioux Falls School District, she had me in her class, and then her last year here too, she has my youngest son.
Jeff and I go way back. Jeff Knoll and his wife Laura Anderson. I actually had my very first year teaching. So I've had fun looking it up to see what we were like back in 1990. And I actually had both their sons. So I've had Jackson, who's now in high school, and I have Edison now in my last year. I had Jeff and Laura my first year, and I have Edison my last year.
I kind of tease her about it, that she had to start it really hard with the Knoll family, and she had to end it really hard with the Knoll family.
I don't know if there'd be any other occupations, professions where you could reach so many. You could have that beginning and that end. I've just been very blessed.
When I had the opportunity to come to Patrick Henry, I was super excited. Number one, you know, it's the neighborhood school that my kids go to, but really the biggest thing was I remember what my experience was like at Patrick Henry, and junior high, middle school there are very few people that reflect back on those years and say, that was great, that was the best. But I really remember some things that Mrs. Boone-Graves said to me. I had another science teacher here that I really appreciated as well, Cheryl Olvestead, and I remember some comments that they made to me that made me feel like very appreciated and valued, and, you know, just kind of gave me, you know, confidence. Like I said, I was pretty shy. I was a pretty shy middle school kid, but no, absolutely, that was the thing I was the most excited about when I had the opportunity to come back here. Was I knew that Patrick Henry had that culture where, you know, teachers believed in students and students believed in their teachers. Both of my sons have really enjoyed Barb. Edison really likes her. He's kind of a science kid too, and so he really enjoys her classroom, especially the you know, the content is she makes that interesting to kids, and science is pretty interesting, especially to Edison. But what he likes the most is like that personal connection, and not that she seeks him out and gives him like any different treatment than anyone else, but just how warm she is, how she takes an interest in everyone. She'll talk to him about all of the things that they're involved in outside of school. But no, I would say it's probably one of his more favorite classes, you know, not only because of the content, but, you know, mostly because of you know, really how Barb makes him feel.
Barb's connections to students and families don't end there, not by a long shot. She was nominated for Teacher of the Year just last year, and the student who wrote the first recommendation letter was no stranger to Barb.
Her mother went here. Her grandma and I went to high school together, and her great-grandma and my mom are very best friends, and they are in their 90s. So that was a 4-generation connection that I had, and so that was so sweet.
Barb's 30-year career with the Sioux Falls School District has meant a number of experiences and accolades.
Through my teaching career, I've had some opportunities that were amazing. One was being selected as a South Dakota representative to go down to NASA in Houston, and I spent 2 weeks down there with 2 teachers from every state. I've done a lot of work with Sanford Research. I have served on the state committees for state science standards. I have been on the district book selections, or, you know, science curriculum committees. I did end up getting my master's in administration. So I feel like I use that in staff development, curriculum. I feel like I used it with student teachers, with mentor teachers.
But nothing compares to the relationships.
As I near my career ending, it has to be the connections. And each day I think, I want to teach the lesson in the very best way I know how. I want to make connections to each one of these kids. Because it's difficult when you have 120 kids each year. It takes a little while to get to know them. But so I come in here and I think, I got to make a positive connection. I got to get to know them. I have to be that person when they leave, their smile.
While 30 years in the classroom is a long time to accumulate, share, and grow,
Well, the wall is so the kids and I can connect and they can see what I do in my life and my family. And our son played basketball in college, and so he was on a poster that said grades matter for student athletes. When we taught astronomy, this was so much fun. We worked with Aeros Data Center. So this is just to show my nieces, nephews, family. And when I come over here and I look at it, I see my kids who are now 26 and 30, and there's pictures of them when they're like an early elementary age. So,
if she could go back in time and give that first-year teacher at Patrick Henry some advice, it would be everything she did anyway.
to keep learning, to keep an open mind. Although I really kind of feel like I'm a pretty adaptable person, but just to be strong, keep learning, make those connections, show the kids, this is what science can do for you.
And while her retirement will certainly mean a loss at this school,
like when I think of Patrick Henry, I think of, teachers like Barb that are invested in the community, they're invested in the families, and no, for sure she will be irreplaceable. We'll get another person, to do what she does, and that person will probably be amazing as well. But Barb, for sure, she will be missed, and there's no way that you'll be able to have someone that can replace all those connections, all those families, all those lives that she's touched.
she leaves a legacy of relationships that will last for lifetimes.
We have Mrs. Boone-Graves, who has had tons and tons of years of experience for teaching, and this is her last year of teaching. So you guys are the last class to experience her wonderful teaching. And we want to get an idea, because some of you are younger siblings. If you have a sibling, a parent, or a relative that you know for sure was a student of Mrs. Boone-Graves, we just want to get an idea of how many people are out there that she has taught. Just stand up. Stand up if you know that Mrs. Boone-Graves taught one of your siblings, one of your parents, one of your relatives. That is pretty incredible. And I know we might have an opportunity to do this later on, but you guys, why don't we give Mrs. Boone-Graves a big round of applause?
I will really miss Patrick.